Hey guys, day 5. You can actually see my apartment for the first time. I took the time today to go ahead and look into some manufacturers for the type of scooters we want to offer. I reached out to a bunch on Alibaba, and there's also a handful of ones in the United States I tried to arrange meetings with. I had a called one today, moving forward with that. I'm thinking of doing some cost modeling today for the scooter model, and I'm curious to see, I'm assuming that the scooter market, it seems that there probably is not brand loyalty in this market, and I've experienced this before with products before. Typically, the best offering gets the most use, and that's just how it is with utility products. Um, it's a mixture of cost versus value for the consumer, right? So if you get more value, but you up your costs, yet the cost versus value is more than any of the competitors, typically you will get more usage than anyone else, given that your availability is at an equal amount to the other competitors. But I think today will be a good day just to explore some more things. I'm debating starting to write some code, but I think I might hold off still. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle to make this work. Some of them, most of the puzzle pieces for me that I'm not 100% sure with my current abilities are the hardware side. I've done hardware development before, but the things we'll need to do for this are these scooters will have to interface with our onboard controllers already using something like an Arduino, and using over-the-air cellular to communicate with them while they're out in the field, and also, add in GPS tracking. It shouldn't be too hard. I've used particles electron stuff before, but this is probably going to be the most in-depth usage I've ever used it for. I'm pretty sure it'll be fine to figure out, just some learning, just some documentation reading, but otherwise, not really afraid of that technical challenge. I think maybe about a week's time and it'll be done. Or a week's time of development, it'll be done, not a week from now. But immediately right now, I'm trying to get my hands on one sample unit, one sample scooter, and I'd really like to take it down to something like the waterfront here in Seattle or Tacoma, and maybe just put some branding on it, stick it out in the middle of nowhere, and just have it say like, or download an app or text a number or something to drive the bike. We probably do text a number since we don't have an app in the App Store or anything like that. But right, it's about testing these things out in the field without spending as much time as possible, with minimizing your cost and seeing, is this something people would actually go to and be like, what is that like, and is it worth checking out? So that's sort of where it is. There's a few people locally that have brought over some of these scooters from Asia and are selling them. The closest one I think is in Portland. The markups are crazy on these things considering what they cost from the factory. It's like a 3x markup over their actual cost from like a wholesaler, or not the wholesaler, but the actual manufacturer in Alibaba or any of these Chinese companies. So if I can get my hands on one for relatively cheap and not have to wait, the 7 to 10 days for Hong Kong DHL air shipping from China to get one, that would be ideal. That way I can start messing with the controller on board sooner than later. And we can get things going that way and determine whether or not this is worth pursuing. I think that's probably the most intelligent way to go about it, but it's going to take some resourcefulness to minimize the cost investment there, get one quick. But I think we can do it. So I'll let you guys know with an update, rest of this video, how that's going, and yeah. So I found a seller in Portland who has some of these and imported them from China and is selling them, which is, I think, at a price of like $1,000 per, or $1,200 per. And the crazy thing is, these things are like $390, $400 from China for the model that I think he's selling, and even with air shipping, they're only like $800. But if you do them via a container, your cost investment will probably be after brokerage fees like 650, 700. But good markup for him, I guess. I'm gonna try and get one, see if I can get it. Excuse me. I'm going to see if I can get these any less than, what he paid for. Maybe by tomorrow or today we'll have something to play with. That'd be cool. I just got back, drove all the way to Portland to pick up one of these things that I've been looking at potentially testing. It's a really cool experience. I had a friend come down with me. Long drive. It's about 3 hours one way to Portland from where I live, and then 3 hours back, so it's been a long day. It was really interesting. I've tried Bird and Lime scooters before, and when I had no idea what it was going to be like to get on this thing and sort of what the experience would be like, but it seemed pretty obvious that it was better in a lot of ways as soon as I got on it. I think I'm sort of feeling that there is something here, and the attention that this thing got on the street was very reassuring. So I think tomorrow I'm going to try and see if we can test some demand with it by just putting some branding on this thing, the scooter, this style of scooter, and putting it out in the middle of, a park or somewhere that's got some high traffic, and seeing if it gets any attention and seeing how people respond to it. That should make for a good video, and I purposely didn't put any pictures of it or anything in this video because I'm waiting to show you guys. I think it'll be sort of a bit of a shock when you see it. It's a really interesting looking thing. It's something you wouldn't expect. So yeah, I've also been thinking more about the general idea of what we're doing with the shared car, and then trying this with shared scooters. It's interesting to me because I think in the future there's probably going to be a standard model around transport, which is a shared model, right? So like you look at any public transit we have now that costs more than too much to own, like ourselves, like airplanes or ferries or buses, and more or less they all operate on a shared model, right? A shared cost model where the cost of the actual asset being used to transport you around is distributed across many people using it over time. I don't see why this wouldn't apply to cars. We've seen it applies to lightweight transport scooters. I also think in the future, with the advent of aerial vehicles and drones, probably sometime within our lifetime, I would imagine that the model there would probably not be one of per person ownership, at least not for the middle or lower class, and maybe not even the upper class. It might just be something where ownership is for the elite, like jets are nowadays. But with any innovation we've seen over time, right, as you get the economies of scale and whatnot, and optimizations in production, they eventually become purchasable in most cases, depending on the asset, right? Most people still don't buy giant airplanes. Actually, very, very few people do. But things for personal transport, I think, become, it seems, available to most people over time. But I don't think that new pieces of technology should be limited to a certain classification of people, even though they promote like a very high convenience for everyone, just because of their cost, right? So I really like how a shared cost model of ownership really makes this possible, where any new technology for transportation, or I'm sure this applies beyond just transportation, but where anything that has a high dollar value, when it becomes introduced to the public, making it available to everyone immediately through the shared cost model seems to make a lot of sense to me. And I think it's a more forward-thinking way to go about what society will look like in the future. But anyways, that's my rambling, my thought. I'm gonna go inside and go to sleep now, I think, or maybe I'll probably work on some either cost modeling or some branding designs, and maybe I'll share them with you guys tonight or tomorrow in another video. So Again, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you want to follow me on this 136-day startup journey. And again, thank you.